All right, welcome everyone. I'm here today to talk a little bit about stress. And in particular, I want to talk about prolonged stress and the impact that it has on the brain. And a lot of this presentation that I'm going to go over today is actually part of Bruce Perry's neurosequential model of education. Many of you probably remember that at the beginning of the school year, as a department, we presented kind of a summary of that model to you guys that really just talked about trauma in the brain and the impact on learning. So that's what all of this is based off of, but it's more in relation to our current COVID-19 situation and just the stress that we're all under right now because of that situation. So hopefully, our hope is that from this training, we all can have a little bit better understanding of how this is impacting us, not only as individuals and our families, but our own families, but also the families that we work with and the children that we work with. And hopefully, just give everyone some ideas of how to take care of yourself and what we can really do to help our families become more resilient as well. Because this isn't going to be ending anytime soon, and we're going to be facing a lot of the outcomes of this even when we all go back to the classroom. So hopefully this will give you guys some just some good information that you can really apply. And so before I really start the training, I just want to note that if any of you want to schedule a time to go over any of the things in this training in more detail, if you want to talk about how it applies to you or your classrooms, I'm available to do that, and we can Zoom or phone call or whatever's easiest, and we can talk about some of that in more detail. So since I know this is all just like a pre-recorded training, that way I can address any individual questions at the end of this. So another thing I just want to note is that we're not allowed to share any of the slides for this training or distribute them in any way because we don't own this. A lot of the slides come from Bruce Perry's actual training, and we don't own those slides. So I do have a handout that I can give you guys once you reach out to me and let me know that you completed the training. I'll send you a handout so you have something in writing, just kind of a summary of this whole training. And then the other thing is that once you complete this training, I'd like you to reach out to me and just let me know that you completed it, and I'm going to give you a little questionnaire, really simple little questionnaire just to fill out and then hand back to me to get credit for the training. So once I get that questionnaire back, then I can reach out to Dorothy and let her know that you did complete the training with me so you can get your professional development hours. So if you have questions about that, let me know. All right, so I think we're ready to get started. So I'm going to screen share because a lot of the information that I'm going to be talking about today, there's different graphs and charts and things. It's going to be a lot easier if you guys can see the presentation. So I'm going to screen share since I can't hand this out to you guys. I just have to figure out how to do it. I'm really bad with technology. So, all right. Okay. So I'm going to move to our first slide if I can get it to work. All right. Thank you for bearing with me. I'm so bad with technology. And I'm not getting any better. You would think that I've been forced to do all this stuff from home and use all the technology, but it's really not improving for me. So I'm not learning a lot. All right, so this first slide talks about the different types of stress. So it's kind of important for us to understand there are different types of stress, and some stress is actually healthy. So healthy stress is referred to as eustress, and this is like, if you think about when you have maybe a situation at work and you have a work project you need to complete or something like that, that's kind of a healthy stressor, and it's something that kind of triggers a response in our body where we get like increased energy. Our heart rate is, our heart's functioning at a good pace, our immune functioning is actually increased. And it has what's called a minimal allostatic load. And so what the allostatic load is, that's basically just wear and tear on the body that builds up when we're exposed to chronic stress. So it's normal. Stress is always going to have a little bit of an impact on our body, but if it's healthy stress, it's very minimal impact. And then we have what's called tolerable stress, where we see a little bit more of a decrease, like in our immune functioning. And it's a little bit more moderate in intensity. The stress itself lasts a little bit longer, and we do have that allostatic load. And so we do have kind of some wear and tear on the body. So I'm sure, you know, many of you have probably experienced, you know, going through some pretty stressful situations where maybe a lot of stressors happened all at the same time, and you could tell it was pretty taxing on your body. You were more tired. Maybe you started getting sick a lot. You know, I think many of us have experienced that. And then we have what's called toxic stress. So this is stress that's prolonged. It's severe. We don't have a lot of control over the things that are happening. And so with that type of stress, we see a lot more of an impact on the body. And so it's got that high allostatic load. You know, it actually affects our cardiovascular functioning and our, you know, metabolic functioning and all sorts of physiological elements that, you know, are impacted. So overall, I mean, we really shouldn't be afraid of stress, because it's just a normal element of everyday life. And, you know, most stressors are relatively minor, and our body really has its own natural stress response capabilities. And that's a good thing. So an example of this would be, let's say you're hungry. Your body, you know, that would be a stressor or a trigger. And your body would have a stress response, a natural response related to that stressor. So it would kind of kick in, and, you know, you would do what you needed to do to go find food. So if we, you know, if we didn't have a little bit of stress, like our body, we wouldn't really be able to function and be able to really take care of ourselves. You know, it's kind of what naturally helps us function. So if, you know, same thing like I was talking about the work project. If you have a project at work, your stress response is going to kick in. You're going to have a little bit more increased energy, you know, a little bit more ability to like do what you need to do to get that project completed. So that's a good thing, and it's a healthy thing, and it's part of our it's essential actually to our development, and it helps us build resilience. You know, if resilience being, you know, the ability to respond to a stressful situation and then return back to kind of a normal level of functioning, you know. So all those little stressors help us to build that resilience and help make us stronger. Our body really learns from those experiences. So, so stress is actually good if it's presented in the right ways. So the thing that really determines whether stress is positive or destructive is what is the pattern of stress. So we're going to talk about that a little bit more. So this is one of Bruce Perry's slides that he talks about to kind of demonstrate two different patterns of stress. So on the one side, we have stress that's unpredictable. So we have, you know, it's extreme and it's prolonged. So if you guys think about our current COVID-19 situation, this is a very negative pattern of stress for us all to be going through. It's unpredictable. We have no idea what to expect. We have no idea if we're going to be going back at the end of the school year. You know, it's not the end of school year, at the beginning of next school year. It's extreme. You know, for some of us, it's more extreme than others. Some people have lost their jobs. Some people have lost loved ones. You know, they've gotten sick, and you know, the impact of this is extreme in many, many ways, and it just kind of depends on the person, you know. The other thing is it's prolonged. I mean, this is lasting a long time. and we don't know how much longer it's going to last, but it's going to be a while. We know that. So when you have this type of pattern, this unpredictable, extreme, prolonged pattern, what happens is it leads to, we start to develop a sensitization. And what that means is that we become more sensitive to the stressors, to the stress that we're under, and it starts to have an impact on, you know, our behavior, our cognition, our emotions, and, you know, all of the core stress response networks in our brain really, they all kick in, and it kind of results in more of a vulnerability. So it just puts us at risk for, you know, all of those emotional cognitive challenges, for more struggles with social interaction, more health issues, all of that. So the idea here that we really want to take away from this is, yes, we are in this very negative pattern of stress, but there's things we can do. So what we really want to try to do is figure out, how can we shift this pattern of stress to a more predictable, moderate, and controllable pattern of stress. Yeah, so what can we do to make our lives a little more predictable, to make that stress a little more moderate, you know, to figure out, what do we have some control over? You know, it's a very scary situation. There's a lot we don't have control over, but there's plenty of things we can control right now. So we really want to try to shift that pattern of stress into that, you know, that more tolerable pattern, you know, so then we can build our resilience. All right. So this slide just kind of demonstrates the fact that our brain and our body adapt to our environment, and it's kind of how we're meant to work. So when we perceive the world as a safe place, we kind of, our brain and our body reacts from more of a calm mindset. Okay, so we have more capabilities in terms of being able to grow and learn and really focus our attention on things, and cooperate with others. We trust others more, you know, and in the long run, when the world is perceived as safe, when we feel safe, you know, it's going to affect our physiological health. And so the research has proven that you have a longer life expectancy when you live in an environment that's safe. So when we perceive the world as a dangerous place, then it kind of kicks us in, you know, our brain and our body kind of goes more into that fear. My dog is barking, sorry guys, it's distracting. More from that fear state. So, you know, when we're reacting from a fear state, we don't trust other people. We're just trying to survive, you know, and we'll do whatever we need to do to keep ourselves, to try to get safe and to survive. And so we might take a lot more risks, be a lot more impulsive. You know, that's kind of what we've all seen with the COVID-19 situation, with like the TP, the toilet paper, you know, people going out and buying all this food and hoarding toilet paper and hand sanitizer. You know, people went into that fear, they had that fear response, and they went into that survival kind of orientation. So so it's normal what we see happening. I know we all kind of laugh about it, but that's kind of just what our bodies do in response to our environment. So another way to think about this is, what can we do to help ourselves, our own families, and the families and the children that we work with? What can we do to help them feel more secure, more safe? You know, there are things we can do. Again, it's shifting that pattern of stress to help us feel a little bit more that, you know, like we're going to be okay.